FCPX Split Screen is a mega pack with incredible capabilities. In this video, we'll show you how simple it is to use. The category we'll be going over is mask. Let's start with this preset, 2 mask split. First, we'll take a look at the grid controls. This grid guide checkbox turns the guide on and off. It's great to switch on whenever we're making edits. This grid color control lets us choose a different color for the guidelines. Scale adjusts the sizing of the grid. And opacity controls the visibility of the grid guide. Next, we'll move on to the animation controls. Animation lets us choose a different style of animation. We'll choose Fade. Let's see how that looks. The parameter completely changes the style of the animation. Intro Speed lets us choose how the animation will start. We'll select Decelerate. Here's the result. Decelerate fades in quickly, then slows down. The difference is easier to see at half speed. And Outro Speed lets us determine how the animation should end. Here's how that looks. Accelerate fades quickly at the end. Here it is again at half speed. Notice the difference? Next, let's check out the style controls. We can use this checkbox to turn the background on and off. With this color well, we can choose a different color for the background. Roundness adjusts the curve of the corners of the mask. Link Scale gives us the option of linking the size of both masks, unlinking them, or linking just one parameter. For example, if we choose Link Width, the width of both masks will be affected if we adjust one of their widths. We'll see this in action when we get to the split controls. Slant X distorts the mask along the X-axis. And Slant Y distorts the mask along the Y-axis. Next, we'll look at the split controls. First, we have Anchor Point. Anchor Point determines the point where the mask will be rotated or adjusted from. So, if we choose Top, all the parameters will be adjusted from the top point of the mask. Position allows us to move the mask horizontally or vertically. The Width control lets us adjust the width of the mask. Because our link scale is set to Link Width, both masks are affected by one mask's width control. And Height adjusts the length of the mask. Since height isn't linked in Link Scale, it only adjusts the one mask. Lastly, Angle adjusts the rotation of the mask. As you can see, the mask is rotating at the top where we set the anchor point. At the bottom, we can use these same parameters to adjust the other mask. Now we'll switch to the next preset in this category, Grid Mask. We've seen what these controls can do, so we'll skip to this section. Position allows us to move the grid horizontally or vertically. Anchor Point determines the point from which the mask will be scaled or adjusted from. We'll demonstrate how Anchor Point affects the parameter like Mask Scale Y. This is what happens when we select Bottom for the anchor point. Here is how the mask is affected when Center is selected. Lastly, here is how the mask is affected when Top is selected. Row Count allows us to adjust the amount of rows in the mask. We'll choose 2. And Mask Spread Y controls the vertical gap between the rows. Mask scale X can shorten or widen the mask windows horizontally. Now let's compare the results. What a difference! We could do something similar with the columns. We'll decrease it to 4. Mask spread X controls the gap between the columns horizontally. And mask scale Y can shorten or widen the mask windows vertically. Now let's compare the results. Finally, roundness determines the curve of the corners of each mask in the grid. Next, let's look at the animation controls. Intro animation determines the way the preset will animate in. We'll add a fade in animation. Let's see the result. Check out the other options when you can. Intro speed lets us choose the style for how the intro animates. Deaccelerate means that the animation starts quickly, then slows down. Here it is again at half speed. Outro animation determines how the preset will animate out. We'll go with Scale Out All. Let's see it in action. What a fun effect! Outro speed lets us choose a different style of outro animation. Let's see what that looks like. Here it is again at half speed. In this menu, we can choose a different direction for the animation. Feels different, doesn't it? Spread controls how many squares are animating at once. We'll slow it down so you can see the difference. Interesting combinations can be achieved with minor adjustments to these animation controls. Here's a result if we set intro animation to scale in X and outro animation to scale out Y. The tutorial's over, but don't worry because we have more where that came from.